The story is about a man who once built a vast fortune starting with a single piece of straw. In the beginning, he was called worthless, but then he became the kind of person to take worthless items and give them a new life. This is the tale of how he eventually came to possess everything in the world. The scene shifted to a cave, where our protagonist, Takaya, was running away from some goblins chasing after him. He was scared for his life, since he didn't have the strength to fight them back and would be killed if they caught him. Right then, a bright lightning struck the goblins chasing our guy, and Takaya looked back and saw he was saved by a student from his class. It was the class representative, and he was disappointed to see Takaya was so weak he can't even handle goblins on his own. Takaya apologized and expressed his wish to be helpful to others somehow, but whenever he was in front of a monster, his strength just left his body. Class rep didn't want to hear useless stuff and told him to regroup with other students. They went back to the others, and there seemed to be a bus that crashed down in the middle of a forest. Apparently, the students from the bus were suddenly transported to another world, and so far, they had been trying to do whatever seemed fitting to survive, like fighting monsters and gathering supplies. The class representative became their leader, since everyone found him reliable. Then the class rep ordered Takaya to go and handle the butchering of the boar hunted by other students. Takaya had no choice but to listen. While other students mocked him for being useless and being able to only do disgusting work like this. Then the class rep called out everyone and asked everyone to stop whatever they were doing and listen carefully. He summarized that it's been a month since their bus crashed into the forest, and except for adults, other students survived it somehow. And the fact their phones don't work means they were not in Japan or Earth. So they don't have any choice but to admit they have been transported to another world. The only reason they have managed to survive for this long was because they awakened some mysterious powers and skills, like some being able to wield weapons, some being able to gain healing magic or other support magic. And the class rep himself was a lightning magic user. So, all these fantasy things seem to be normal in this world, and it seems here, a person's value was determined by their abilities. However, only one person among them didn't awaken any abilities, Takaya Nagami. The class rep stated they couldn't afford to keep a freeloader with them, who only does stuff like butchering monster courses. They could just find a village and pay the villagers to do the butchering for a cheaper cost, then affording meals for feeding one extra mouth. So in other words, the class rep decided to do a democratic voting to decide whether to keep Takaya or exile him. Takaya was shocked upon hearing that, and after the votes were counted, the class rep declared that Takaya was to be exiled, as decided by majority. While Takaya was feeling despair, a blonde student named Suigetsu held him by wrapping his arm around Takaya and told him to finish the work he was given first before leaving. Takaya was afraid of being hit by him, since he was used to being bullied by Suigetsu and others. Suigetsu made fun of Takaya as he worked on butchering the boar, and questioned how he could even tolerate that filthy stench. The class rep also made a mocking remark that this kind of work was deserving of a guy like Takaya, since he was of no use in anything else as he didn't have any abilities. It's like his sole purpose was to be a chore boy. Takaya didn't like this sort of work, but he had no other choice, and his whole life had been like this. He could never find a place he could belong to, no matter how hard he tried. And in the end, he would only get stuck doing things nobody else wanted to do. Right then, he took out a magic stone from the boar monster's corpse, and Suigetsu asked him what that thing was. Takaya replied it was common for magic stones like this to come out from monsters' bodies, and these stones could be traded at the village, although he didn't think this one was worth all that much. But Suigetsu still snatched the magic stone for himself, claiming it was a penalty for making Suigetsu look at Takaya's face. He dared Takaya say a word if he got a problem, as he choked his neck slightly. Takaya was having trouble breathing, and when the class rep saw that, he stopped Suigetsu from bullying Takaya, saying that guy wasn't their classmate anymore after being exiled. Suigetsu stopped, but he didn't want to let him be. Yes, and thought, why don't they put a collar on Takaya and make him do chores until he drops dead? It sounded fun to him, but the class rep can't allow something like that, since it would damage his image in front of other classmates. And to retain his kind image, he decided to give some coins and a dismantling knife as a parting gift to Takaya, so that he could have a little chance surviving out there. But Takaya knows he couldn't survive long by himself, but others don't care at all, as they believed it was a necessary sacrifice to be made, to cut off freeloaders who can't help the group. So the class rep pointed out that Takaya was already helping out a lot by disappearing, which would become an example for everyone else to not be lazy and stay united and hardworking if they wanted to survive. So, with that, the class rep left Takaya as it was about time for him to take his leave. Takaya had to leave the group while being spit on by some students on the way. He cried, as all of this was just too much even for the bad life he suffered with. As he was leaving, he was then surprisingly called out by a student, which was a girl, who brought the magic stone from earlier. She secretly got it back from Suigetsu and wanted Takaya to have it, since he was the one who collected it. With this stone, She believed he could get a little money to survive. Takaya thanked her for being kind to him, and she hoped he would be fine out there and could come back later when things cooled down for everyone else. She believed everything would go back to normal someday. Till then, she hoped he would take care of himself. Takaya waved bye to her, having a hunch that he probably won't return, but he was still grateful for Minakami being kind to him. After parting ways with her, Takaya recalled that the only thing that hadn't changed in his life was that he had no place to belong to. Right now, all he got were some coins, a magic stone, and a butcher knife to survive somehow. But he had no idea what he was even going to do next. As he walked further to the nearby town, Takaya believed he wouldn't live long anyway, so he might as well spend all his money on having some good moments before his death. He saw different kinds of creatures in the town, both humans and non-humans, and while he still couldn't read anything around here in town, he looked at a bottle and thought it must be booze. Since he was gonna die anyway, he wanted to experience some booze as well. And maybe some girls too if that would mean he won't die a virgin. But after a girl hugged him, clearly with the intent to sleep for money, Takaya noticed her lower half wasn't human, but more like a snake. He got startled and excused himself from there. Takaya left the town and walked some distance away from it until he found a rock to sit beside and mourn his life so far. He looked at the booze he brought and just gulped it down in one go as much as he could. Then, due to the bitterness, he spilled most of it out. Takaya's eyes fell upon the butcher knife he had, and in this weak emotional state, he could only think of one solution for everything: to die now instead of prolonging it. He cut his wrist and just lied down with a fading consciousness. As he was slowly dying, he recalled how he was the only one without a group in all the school years. Others simply refused to be with him and made remarks like, he'll be alone for life. After some time, someone greeted him in the morning and asked if Takaya was okay. Takaya was slowly gaining his consciousness, and he saw a girl with some guys in her back who were relieved to see him waking up. She confirmed to party leader Daiku that the boy had woken up, and while they seemed happy about it, Takaya himself was feeling weird, because he should have slit his wrist and died by now. Others were shocked upon hearing that he tried to commit suicide, whereas Takaya felt like a loser for not being able to pull out even suicide properly, making him more conscious about his worthless life. The girl and other guys looked at the dismantling knife Takaya tried to take his life with, and they kind of laughed, thinking Takaya really tried to take his life with that thing. Then the guy tried to cheer up Takaya and said they'll be with him for now and see him off next morning. Takaya wasn't sure why they were assisting him, after which they began introducing themselves to him, with the girl being Meryl, a priestess. The guy in the center was their leader, Daiku, a knight, and the guy in left was Roa, an archer. Takaya followed up with his introduction and was later escorted by the party back to town. On the way, Meryl learned Takaya's story ever since he arrived in this world with others, and she seemed to feel a little bad for him. But other guys commented it was a good thing Takaya left others, because it was a foolish thing to camp out in the forest like that. He then asked Takaya what kind of work was he made to do in the party, to which Takaya replied he did meager tasks like handling chores and butchering the hunted monsters. Since he had no talent for anything, he could only do so much. But Roa was amazed to hear that, because it means Takaya wasn't unskilled but instead what they call a processor, which was a respectable profession. They explained to Takaya that a processor was someone who handles turning magic beast corpses, plants, and flowers into materials, and a simple example of that would be processing the hunted game into meat. But Takaya thought it wasn't all that special, since there were plenty of people in town who could handle that. Roa corrected those guys at best, level 1. And to become a professional processor, one needs to have an aptitude of around level 2 or 3. In this world, the level system seemed to be 10th of normal 1 to 100, and Takaya didn't get much about levels from just this much explanation. Roa can't believe Takaya doesn't know about his level, because the stone he was carrying in the bag was undoubtedly a magic stone, which a clueless person shouldn't be able to get their hands on. Takaya explained he got it from the heart of a boar corpse, and he could harvest them pretty often, which didn't seem to be a big deal. If possible, Takaya wanted to have talent in martial arts or magic. But then Roa pointed out that Takaya didn't seem to know how precious magic stones were, especially the red magic stone he got in his hand. Meryl was also amazed he didn't know that, and since Takaya was clueless, they taught him that magic stones were used for making magic wands and potions. And to be able to extract them, one needs to have at least level 3 dismantling skills. Daiku thought if Takaya could harvest red magic stones at beginner level, he must have a potential of at least a level 3 or higher. So, in other words, Takaya was blessed with way more potential than even the level 2 archer rode here. Meryl added that Roa was also crazy about brothels. Daiku added that if Takaya undergo proper training now and level up his skills smoothly, he would surely gain more rare skills and might even be able to butcher a dragon. Takaya was amazed to learn he was actually of some value, and to think he had that kind of potential was overwhelming to hear for him. Meryl asked him why don't he stop by their guild if he didn't have a place to go. They'll help Takaya in measuring his abilities and also teach him about what else was out there regarding processors. And if possible, He would also learn about any hidden abilities he might have, from where Takaya could choose the appropriate profession for himself. That way, he could also realize his true value and drop all the worthless thoughts he had earlier, which led him to attempt taking his life. He was just not aware of his own talents. And her guild needed talents like Takaya. Takaya can't believe someone like him, who was exiled from his party, wasn't worthless after all. And if there was anyone who needed him, he wouldn't have the chance to buy. So he made his decision to go along with Meryl to confirm his abilities. And also join their guild if he could. Daiku and Roa liked his spirit, and were glad Takaya was energetic now, unlike his gloomy self earlier. They also offered to treat Takaya to something good, regardless of whatever results they get later on, so he could forget about all the bad stuff and chill. Meryl told Takaya was already one of their comrades, and they boarded the ship with him, which was heading for the city where their guild was located. When they reached the city, a large port was visible, and Takaya couldn't believe such a big city existed in this world. Meryl told him it was no big deal, and there were even bigger cities out there in the world, compared to which, this one would look like a speck. She informed him that the world was really big out there, so it would be a waste for him to die if he ever thinks of it again. Takaya realized he was really stupid to think he was going to take his life just for a cage called class. Now, he was taken to Meryl's guild, which was named as Sea Rat. Takaya was able to read things out here, and Meryl told him this was actually the official and most common language in this world, unlike the town he was in earlier, which had a local language. Inside the guild, Roa called out the receptionist Mita and asked her if the president was here. She replied the president was in his room, but was curious who the boy they brought with them was. Roa just replied he was a promising applicant, and they wanted to introduce him to the guildmaster quickly. After that, they went inside the guildmaster's room, only to witness a shocking sight, actually a creepy one, as the guildmaster was playing pig and being trampled on by a shorty girl who was punishing him and playing some fantasy of theirs. When they realized they had some guests, Rudra introduced himself just like that, as Guildmaster of Sea Rat, while the girl beside him told Guildmaster to put his mini-pig down there away from guests' eyes. After that, they changed and the Guildmaster checked the magic stone properly before asking if that boy there really had that kind of potential. Guildmaster Rudra asked Faria, Vice President, if she thinks the boy might have some real talent. Faria suggested they could check it out with this tree paper here, which measures the degree of potential dormant in each person. She opened the paper and placed it on the ground, then asked Takaya to place his finger in the center of the paper. Takaya did as instructed, while learning that this paper would show the potential of a person in the form of a tree, showing the skills and talents they could master and what levels they could reach. Takaya was nervous as he placed his finger, but when he didn't receive any response, he thought he was worthless after all, just like the class rep said. But then others asked Takaya to take a look behind him, as the results of his measurements were beyond anything others could have expected. As they looked at Takaya's results in surprise, including Takaya, the vice president, Faria explained that a tree of talent varied from person to person, and while some people have great trees that pierces the heavens, some also have vines that cover the earth. But in Takaya's case, what the paper produced was roots, showcasing that Takaya had the foundation for all production and processing systems in the world, and he could literally master everything out there. Takaya found it hard to believe he could master everything, since he was told he had no value, and was exiled. Faria stated in that case, whoever kicked him out would eventually cry and kneel before them, when they realize a person's value couldn't be measured by surface alone, as their true value lies within. She told Takuya he passed in terms of skills assessment, and with his level of potential, the world won't leave him alone. She was glad their guild was lucky enough to get their hands on a man like him before anyone else. Takaya was really happy to hear all this stuff, since he only ever lived miserably, comparing himself to others before even trying to dedicate himself to anything. But now, things were different, and he went to throw his student ID into the fire, as if to show that he was leaving his past behind and moving on to follow his goal now. His real life starts here, as he decided to live as a processor in this world and see just how much he could awaken the potential dormant within him. Later on, the guild held a celebration party for their new guild member, Takaya, and while they were all enjoying themselves, Meryl reminded Takaya not to drink too much like last time, when he ended up taking his life. And also, she doesn't want him to worry about anything, as they were comrades now and got each other's back. Takaya was moved by her words. Then the receptionist came to meet Takaya, the future great processor of their guild. All the girls kinda got too close to Takaya, and Meryl argued it's up to her only to teach various things to Takaya. Takaya was kinda having a hard time being sandwiched by girls, and he tried asking Daik and Roa for help. Daiku just told him to enjoy his popular phase. If he misses out on things like that, he'll regret it. Roa, on the other hand, was just thinking about the girls at brothels back there. The party went on for a while, and Takaya had a good time for the first time in his life. He had a sound sleep that night, and when it was the time of the morning, he woke up in the middle of others, as everyone seemed to have fallen asleep while drinking. Takaya sat down and recalled how he had always sneered at parties from afar. He never knew making noises with friends could be this fun. Right then, a lady walked up to him and she had been waiting for Takaya to wake up. Takaya was startled by her calling him. Then she mentioned having heard of Takaya from Rudra and had been wondering what kind of guy he was. She remarked he had a cute face, but Takaya was more concerned about who she was. Suddenly, he was encircled by a magic spell, and out of nowhere he was teleported to a high place in the sky. When he realized the height, Takaya got goosebumps all over his body as he was about to free fall on the ground. As he fell, more portals opened up on the way, sending him through different places from golem factories to the mountains, and from the demon world to the sea. Lastly, he fell down right back in the Sea Rat Guild, completely sobered up. The lady told him that just because he was born with talent doesn't mean he has all the time in the world to play around, and especially when he was going to be her disciple. Takaya still questioned the same thing from her, about who she was, and since she figures he's all sober now, she was about to answer his question. At the same time, Rudra came and greeted the sage. The lady, who was in fact the sage, claimed she had come to pick up her disciple as promised. The vice president remarked that the sage, Ever, seemed to be as energetic as always. Ever referred to Faria as Shorty, and mentioned her surprise to see they managed to find such a gem out there, referring to Takaya. When Meryl saw that, she asked Sage Ever, what was she doing to Takaya? Meryl hadn't met Sage Ever before, so Rudra introduced Ever to everybody, as both the sage and also their guild advisor. She was one of the few masterclass mages with level 9, and Rudra called her, because he didn't want Takaya's talent to go to waste and nurture him properly. So Sage Ever would train him as her disciple. She was an old friend of Rudra, and she was also intrigued by Takaya's talent. However, Takaya was feeling anxious by the thought of being alone, even for the sake of training. He was looking forward to starting a new life as a guild member. Rudra told Takaya that he had heard of Takaya's backstory, and his circumstances reminded Rudra about his life as well. He also gave up and ran away from his past, but now he doesn't want Takaya to be held down by his past like Rudra allowed him. So, to make sure Takaya won't have the same regret as Rudra, he wanted Takaya to train his talent under Sage Ever, although he hoped Takaya wouldn't abandon them after getting famous. Takaya felt a strange sense of familiarity in Rudra's words, and thus he agreed to go and train under the sage to become a full-fledged professional and repay everyone. He promised the same to everyone in the guild, and they also promised to wait for Takaya's return from training. After that, Takaya saw everyone off, knowing it would be a temporary bye. Sage Ever opened a portal, and Takaya jumped into it with excitement. After that, Takaya and Sage Ever were teleported to the front of her mansion, and she welcomed him with a formal introduction as Sage of the Forest. She warned him there's no turning back now, and Takaya looked forward to it. He claimed to be prepared for any harsh trial. She liked the enthusiasm and told him to feel free to pick any empty room he likes for stay. As Takaya wandered around the mansion, he was amazed at how magnificent it was. And even more amazing was he would be staying here. While he was hoping to find a clean room, he ended up coming across some mud-like golems in a room, seeing which he got scared and ran away, excusing himself. He went ahead to check other rooms, but it was a similar scene mostly everywhere. Takaya realized he might have underestimated this world a bit, and it was hard for him to survive out here. That way, he ended up checking almost every room except for the last remaining one. He opened the door with high hopes, but his expectations were answered in another way, as there was a naked girl in the middle of changing inside. At the same time, Sage Ever showed up behind him, and claimed she forgot to mention that her other disciple was a girl, but it seemed she was too late. And the girl inside got pissed off and smacked our boy right away, while the poor boy shouted he wasn't told anything about the other disciple. Later, with a slap mark on his face, Ever introduced Takaya to the girl and stated he might look frail but he definitely got the potential. And as she continued to introduce the girl, the moment she began complimenting her body before name, the girl warned the master not to say any more vulgar stuff or else she'll cut her. Ever chuckled and told the girl if she keeps being like that, she would always be a virgin. The girl almost drew her blade, but Ever apologized in time and refrained from harassing any further. She stated this girl here was Tsubaki, from a small island nation far away, and Ever was asked by her parents to have this girl assist with her research. Takaya also apologized to Tsubaki earlier and claimed he ended up here because all other rooms were cursed. Tsubaki knows he's not lying, and her room was the only one not cursed here. However, when Takaya offered a handshake to greet her, Tsubaki told him not to get ahead of himself, and she would never trust the likes of him. She hated him already, and made it clear that no matter how much the master praises him, a weak man like him won't survive long if he was thrown in a harsh place like her homeland. Ever was liking the exchange between those two, and remarked they seemed to be getting along well with each other. She asked them to shake hands, but Tsubaki refused to do so, as she did not want to touch a man like him. Takaya was worried about what to do now, and he didn't seem to have any place to sleep in this big mansion either. Iron Master Ever teased him, saying he could join her in her room. It's spacious, and they could have some fun every night if he wanted. Takaya jumped in surprise, and she told him one serious thing, that he would have to work real hard during the day, starting with cleaning the mansion. That's how Takaya's training began with the Sage Ever, and he was really made to work hard like a slave, doing everything from cooking, laundry, even cleaning and shopping, while having some troublesome encounters with Master Ever. And at the end of the day, he would get to study books in the library of the mansion. With this routine, a month passed by, and Takaya didn't feel like he had done any real training. He wondered if it was even okay at this point. Then he was called out by Master Ever, and he asked if it's another errand. And she then took a good look at him from up close, and reached the conclusion that he was currently a level 4 processor. Tsubaki came down after being called out by Ever, and Ever asked her if she was ready. She had Takaya pack his bags with food and medicine, and declared that from now on, Takaya and Tsubaki would live a survival life in the Sage's forest. They were not allowed to come back until they cleared the assignment. Takaya was excited to finally get some real training to do, but Tsubaki on the other hand wasn't fine with going along with Takaya. She mentioned their levels were too far apart, but then Sage Ever told him the assignments they were given were to concoct a double high potion and make a new knife exclusively for Takaya. Tsubaki recalled these were level 5 items, and Sage believed they could handle these assignments. But Takaya wasn't sure, since he never learned how to make a knife. In that case, Sage Ever told Tsubaki to teach Takaya how to forge a blade. Tsubaki was astounded by the sudden task, and she asked the master if she meant for Tsubaki to teach her family's traditional smithing skills to a man like Takaya. Ever didn't respond and said she would be waiting for them while watching their training with the talisman she's putting in Takaya's neck. She wished them to do their best and left with a portal. Takaya and Tsubaki were feeling like they were abandoned by Ever, and now they were on their own. Takaya mentioned he was bad at combat, so he would rely on Tsubaki to protect him. Then she made one thing clear, that if he dragged her down even a little, she wouldn't hesitate to cut him. After that, they made their way into the forest, and it was obviously full of monsters. Takaya was running away from a monster. Then Tsubaki came in clutches and slashed the monster in one strike with her katana. Takaya was grateful for her saving him, but she told him to be a little courageous and stop being so scared by every little thing. She found it hard to believe Takaya had any talent at all, and asked him what kind of achievements he had made so far. Takaya embarrassingly admitted he hasn't made anything yet, and for the past month, the only real progress he made was from studying books on medical herbs and ores. He was confident about one thing, that if Tsubaki were to consume any poisonous plant by mistake, he could make an antidote. But she refused to rely on him, and won't let that chance come at all. Or she was also reluctant to think she would have to teach her precious family smithing style to a tourist like this. For now, they found a cave to camp for tonight, and while they were resting, Tsubaki wrote a letter for Master Ever to report that they had safely arrived at the cave. Takaya told her she did great work, and he cooked the food for them and gave her a seek as well, stating it was delicious. She tried to turn him down, but her empty stomach said something else. Takaya told her it's fine, and she ended up eating it, and also found it quite delicious. Takaya mentioned it was great he was here, since Tsubaki was bad at cooking and he was good at it. She got mad, and Takaya apologized for getting carried away. Right then, she told him to be quiet, as it seems they got company. From outside the cave, some growling sounds came, and Tsubaki was on her guard, since they were still in the forest. A hostile pair of eyes shone in the dark, and Tsubaki alerted Takaya to run back to the mansion right now. The situation was more dangerous than they could handle. The wolf beast lunged at her, and he held it at bay with her sword, although she was pushed back by it. Takaya was worried for her, but she wasn't going down that easily, as she kicked back the wolf and stood back up on her legs with a fierce look in her eyes. Tsubaki began transforming into her own demi-human form, and Takaya realized she was a beast kind. Tsubaki was going toe-to-toe against the wolf monster, then the monster turned towards Takaya to attack him. Takaya couldn't run faster than that, and Tsubaki shouted, "Why didn't he run away when she told him to?" Now, the monster jumped at Takaya, but midway, it lost its strength and transformed into human form. Takaya saw it was a girl, and she seemed to have a terrible fever. Tsubaki was a bit taken aback to think that the wolf overwhelmed her when it was already injured. Takaya recalled having read about something in a book, that the symptoms in Wolf Girl's body were similar to poison from Gurenbeni mushroom. It was kinda troublesome poison, but there were ways to detoxify it. Tsubaki was shocked to see Takaya thinking of saving this wolf girl that just attacked them, which goes against the laws of nature, since the weak were supposed to die, and the strong ones were to survive. So, the fact that this wolf got poisoned by a mushroom means it was defeated by nature, and they shouldn't interfere with the natural law of survival of the fittest. Takaya stated he was also weeded out by that same law of survival of the fittest once, but it was Meryl, Daiku, Roa, and everyone else at the Sea Rat Guild who accepted him for who he was and gave him a second chance. Just like that, he wanted to give this child a second chance as well. Tsubaki didn't expect him to actually take a stand for something with his own will, as Takaya stood up and said he would go by himself if needed to collect the herbs. He carried the injured wolf girl on his shoulders, while trying to comfort her with words. assuring if they only walked a little, they would surely find herbs in time. But turns out, he was too weak and was about to lose his balance and fall. Then, Tsubaki came and assisted him. He thanked Tsubaki, and she told him her first name, Akane, and mentioned she would go ahead to find ingredients for medicine. Takaya thanked Akane for help, but she got flustered and told him not to misunderstand anything. He was still a failure in her eyes. It's just that she reconsidered her opinions a little and decided to help. After that, Akane went and gathered herbs by herself, and Takaya processed those ingredients with his skill. He managed to concoct a double high potion with added detoxification effect, and while doing this, they managed to clear their first assignment. However, even though the potion was ready, the injured wolf girl couldn't drink it in her current state. So, Takaya didn't waste any time and poured some potion in his mouth, then transferred it through his mouth to the wolf girl's mouth to ensure she drinks it. Akane was left dumbfounded by this approach and asked what he was doing. Takaya replied it's a medical procedure for emergencies, and now they just needed to wait for medicine to take effect. The next morning, Akane woke up, wondering how the wolf's condition was, but she ended up seeing the same wolf girl licking Takaya's lips while calling him master. Akane shouted, "How the hell was this a medical procedure?" Then, Takaya woke up, confused about why was this wolf girl calling him master. The wolf girl looked at him and told him that she had always been alone and lonely, but after the master saved her, she didn't feel alone anymore. Takaya told her she was free and didn't need to think of him as her master, but she didn't want to leave his side, claiming she didn't want to be alone anymore. Akane summarized that the wolf girl wanted Takaya to take responsibility and look after her. Takaya didn't mind it if she wanted to be with him and asked for her name. Akane told him that since saved her, he should give her a name as well, since beasts don't normally have one. Takaya thought for a bit and decided to name the wolf girl as Mike. After Mike's condition was fully recovered, they were sure now that double high potion passed the test, which leaves them with the last assignment, to create a level 5 knife. Akane was worried it could take them days to gather the necessary amount of iron ore. Takaya was looking through the book to see if he could find anything helpful, but then Mike recognized the stone from its picture in the book and said she knew where it was, and for her master, she would get it for him. Where Mike transformed into her wolf form and went outside, but Takaya was worried if this could be considered cheating on their assignment. Akane figured it would save them time, and either way, his mission was not to gather anything but to process a knife. Besides, Mike seemed to be wanting to repay the favor in her own way. After they followed Mike for a while, they ended up reaching another cave, and inside it, they ended up coming across sky stones. Akane knew that one, and said it was a precious material they can't handle at their current level, but it was nonetheless worthy enough to be called a treasure. Takaya told Mike she was amazing. Then, Akane called him out and pointed out something she found further in the cave. It was a sea of iron ores, and thanks to the wolf Mike, they could train properly with all these ores. She was amazed Takaya's irrelevant meddling turned out to be this helpful. Takaya realized once again that as long as one's alive, they were full of possibilities. Now, he began creating the blade with iron ores. While he was smithing, Akane understood now why the master paired her up with Takaya. He might seem like a weak, lecherous pervert at first, but he managed to overcome the trial with a power she does not have, even obtained a new comrade in Skystone. That power was kindness, which she learned from him. After working for a while, Takaya managed to craft a level 5 dagger, and with that, the second assignment was cleared. He thanked Mike for her help, thanks to which they obtained a super rare souvenir for Master as well, the Skystone. He also thanked Akane for her help. If she weren't here, he wouldn't have managed it all. Akane also admitted that for a coward, he was kinda cool around this time, although she didn't want him to think of it in a weird way. Right then, Sage Ever arrived on the spot with a portal, and she confirmed her disciples had completed both assignments. She was seeing everything with the talisman, and since Takaya was better at using his skills now, she told him he was nominated for his first job. So, he was to be summoned back to the guild, along with Akane and the divine wolf daughter Mike. Takaya didn't expect he would be given his first official job so soon, after which he and others traveled back to the Bay Road City, where the Sea Rat Guild was located. However, Takaya noticed they weren't teleported to the guild right away, and when he asked Master Ever about it, she pointed out it's not good to meet a client while looking like that. Takaya just realized he was stinking due to spending time in the forest, and his clothes also seemed to be covered with dust. Ever had him get a haircut first, then get all washed up and changed into some new clothes, along with some clothes for Mike as well. Both of them looked like some professional guild members now, and Akane added the final touch by tying the blade, Shirogane, on Takaya's waist. Takaya realized she named the blade for him, and she told him he must never let go of his blade. After that, they headed for the guild, and there, he was welcomed back by the guild members with a warm smile. He wondered where Daiku was, but he seemed to be a bit busy at the moment. As for Meryl, she just arrived and greeted Takaya with a cheerful smile. However, when she noticed Takaya came back with 2 mistresses, she was shocked, and Takaya tried to clear her misunderstanding. Akane was hiding behind him for some reason, and when asked, She replied, "She's just bad at talking to people she meets for the first time." Meryl learned eventually Akane was just Takaya's training buddy, and that aside, she wished him good luck for his first job. She also asked Mike to make sure to guard Takaya properly, since the client they were going to meet was a bit troublesome. Takaya went ahead and entered the guildmaster's room, where he saw the clients, wearing a hood to keep their faces hidden on the way for some reason. And the client seemed to have brought a broken spear along with them. Faria alerted Takaya to be careful, as these guests were demons from the underworld, and not just any demon, on high-ranking ones from Succubus General class. She told him that humans and demons have been at war for thousands of years, and were still in a bit of tension but maintaining ceasefire from both sides. So, depending on Takaya's attitude towards those demons, a war could either be started or prevented. Takaya was suddenly shouldered with such heavy responsibility, and he politely asked the guests if they were here for him. The demons removed their hoods, and the demon girl agreed she was here for him, as she needed the help of level 9 creator or processor. She introduced herself as Murmuru, and the one behind her was her caretaker, Letty. Murmuru made sure he knew she was one of the 4 heavenly kings who rule the underworld, while Takaya was actually kinda distracted by the little fabric on her body. Out of nowhere, Murmuru started begging him to help her and create a new demon spear. Takaya thought Murmuru was kinda casual for a general, and Sage Ever also found it interesting to see a demon general bowing to a human. Murmuru requested him, because if he doesn't make a new demon spear for her, she might be killed. Apparently, not too long ago, Murmuru was informed she would have to take up her post as one of 4 heavenly kings in a month, and she would also inherit her family weapon, the demon Tri-Spear of Darkness. But Murmuru found being general and all as a troublesome thing, and she hated politics. She just hoped wars would be stopped and everyone would love each other so she could spend her life at ease. Letty reminded Murmuru that her mother won't be pleased upon learning that her daughter was just passing time, while neglecting her demon spear, which was lying in a dirty room. She was worried something might happen to the spear, but Murmuru didn't think anything bad would happen at all. She took out the demon spear, just to show Letty that it was completely fine. But the next moment, the demon spear of darkness broke in 2 pieces, leaving both of them beyond shock, which was a given, since Murmuru's mother would literally kill her when she learns of the demon spear breaking. Murmuru hugged Letty, while asking if there was some way they could get a new spear made before her mother finds out. They could just have a court processing artisan work on it, but Letty replied that person left his position, since he was tired of being worked hard by a selfish noble in the past. Murmuru doesn't think they could risk taking the spear to any other creator in the demon world, in which case, Letty suggested they should try finding someone capable in the human world. But they might have trouble finding a human who could handle magic as good as a demon, and was also a skilled creator. So while looking for a level 9 creator, capable of making a demon spear, she ended up overheating that guy Daiku's words, boasting to have a level 9 creator in their guild. Daiku couldn't help it, as he was kinda tricked into revealing information by Murmuru, as she told him a super hot woman was looking for a genius creator. Faria then closed Daiku's mouth to punish him for leaking information about a comrade. Faria told Takaya it was a really sensitive situation, since a demon general was relying on, who wasn't exactly a level 9 creator right now, but Daiku already boasted so. Sage Ever assured Takaya he would be just fine, since he had demonstrated his talent and skills in processing through training. Moreover, she thought this job would be really great for him, to spread his name to the world with this job, but in case he denies, he would be making enemies of a demon general, which would get him blacklisted by the nation. It's up to him to decide whether to accept this request or not. While Takaya was thinking, Letty assured him they would pay with whatever he asked, be it money or rare metals. They could pay with anything, and if he accepts this request right now, Letty would dedicate herself to him as a contract-free. Daiku thought he was very lucky, getting an offer like that. But Takaya didn't understand why Letty was willing to go that far for Murmuru. Letty replied that her whole clan's life depends on Murmuru's life and the demon spear, and if it's for them, she was willing to die anytime for their sake. Takaya didn't think she was lying, in which case he understood and accepted the request to create the demon spear. Ever knew he would say that, and so did Mike, and as for Murmuru, she hugged him while thanking for accepting this request. However, when Takaya mentioned he wasn't a level 9 creator yet, she was heartbroken, and questioned him what he intended to do then. He replied he might not be a genius, which was why he had some plans to tackle this situation another way. And for that, he would make use of the Sky Stone here, to not make a new spear, but weld the broken demon spear. Murmuru was clueless, and Takaya realized he was going to simply glue the spear back. Ever asked him what about the original strength of the spear then. Takaya replied it should be, since humans had made rockers by welding stuff back in his world. Now, he asked Faria to reserve the nearest blacksmith, but she replied there's no need for that, because they had been renovating their guild's basement for the past month and made something for him. Takaya went downstairs and saw something amazing, a whole personal workshop for him alone. Faria mentioned Rudra sold off his tacky rings, and she sold some of her dresses and got a little debt to turn their basement into a workshop. And every time she gets to know Takaya more, she feels like she made the right decision. Takaya was really moved because this was his first place in the world, which he could call home for real, and now he was determined to live up to everyone's expectations. Some time passed while Takaya had been working in his workshop with Akane, and he asked her to melt the skystone and prepare the furnace. She asked him if he had a plan, since they can't melt back the skystone later. He replied he does, and told Mike to keep watch and make sure he won't be distracted while working, because he needs to focus on the work. He then asked Mamoru to give the spear, and after taking a closer look, it was just as he thought. The spear didn't break from age, but someone forcefully broke it on purpose, which means this spear was still fine enough to be put together. He got to some serious work. While Mike was standing watch outside, Takaya asked Akane to give him materials he needed one by one. And even though she wasn't sure how it would turn out, Takaya wanted to trust his instincts and see through this plan. Akane followed his instructions and finished melting the skystone. Takaya mixed in some rensa moss with it and started bearing the cool metal to shape it into a soft material which could be made use of in welding the demon spear. And not long after, he managed to finish welding the demon spear successfully. He then asked Mamoru to test the spear by imbuing some magic into it. And after she did that, some immense magic overflowed even to outside of the room, making others curious. Inside the room, Mamoru was happy that the demon spear was back in one piece. She mentioned, though, it was not exactly back to normal, but it should be more than enough to fool Mother and others temporarily. This means they were saved now. And told Takaya he deserves the reward as planned. But right then, they were collared out of nowhere by none other than Sage Ever, as it seems she got a demand of her own. She asked Murumuru, why don't she become slaves of Takaya? Takaya asked the master what she was doing. Then she reminded him this was pure business, and he should not forget to take the maximum reward for his work. And since he finished a really high-risk task, he earned the right to receive a suitable reward with his own power and skills. But Takaya claimed he didn't intend for this. Murumuru was somewhat fine with it, since the spear meant that much for her to protect her family. Although she was scared of too much pain, though, assuming she would have to suffer as a slave, but she was still prepared for it, and that's exactly what Takaya didn't want. The master told him that his skill would become even stronger by time, and he would get more jobs like this, so he doesn't really have the luxury to pity anyone. And over time, he should be able to have everything he wishes, be it money, honor, or women. So she asked him what he desires with that power of his. Was it wealth, power, or even revenge? She assured him it could all be achieved with his power as creator. However, Takaya replied that if he had such power, he wanted to save people who have been collared. He wanted to help those who were robbed of their chance to be happy. He wanted to uplift people from their sufferings and break this damn cycle of survival of the fittest. His reply amazed everyone, and Sage Ever admits she was just joking and teasing him. She released Murumuru and Letty and told them to go back to their home with the spear, but make sure to return with the payment, or else Ever would handle them. Takaya was relieved things didn't get serious. Then Murumuru came to thank him once again, and she began trusting him more after what he said. For now, she saw everyone off and was about to leave to report the safety of the spear to her mother. Letty wished her lady, Murumuru, a safe trip, which came as a surprise. Letty reminded them that she made the offer to serve Takaya, so now she would work as his maid here in the Gulf for a while, as a mode of her own payment. Takaya asked, didn't he turn that all down? To which Letty replied she was doing it on her own, putting her bet on the talented man he was. Out of nowhere, she kissed him in front of everyone, catching them all by surprise. And at the same time, Meryl came after hearing the work was done, but was shocked upon seeing the sight going down here of the demon maid kissing Takaya. She was left speechless before she exploded on Takaya and called him an idiot. While he was trying to clear the misunderstandings, Takaya was glad he finished his first job and debuted as Sea Rat's exclusive creator and processor. Over time, the potions made by him also became a hit, and people haven't seen such purity in any other potions before. This spread Takaya's name further, as the Sea Rat's exclusive creator with genius create skills, and his name also ended up reaching the ears of a person, Akira, who was none other than the class representative who exiled Takaya earlier. Meanwhile, the guild has made rules like limiting to sell only 5 potions per person at max, and since their demand was exploding in the market. Rudra was delighted as the items made by Takaya sold well, and their guild won't be poor anymore. Then Faria reminded Guildmaster Rudra not to pressure Takaya much, since he had been working a bit too hard from a while now. Ever also argued for the same, and warned Rudra if he overworked her disciple, she would castrate him. Rudra nodded along and asked Letty how Takaya was doing now. She replied he was immersed with work, so much that he forgot to eat or sleep. Mike also complained Master Takaya was overdoing it. She wondered if she should call Akane and drag him out of the workshop. Right then, Meryl arrived and wished everyone good morning. Rudra and Faria got an idea, and assigned Meryl her new quest, to drag Takaya out of the workshop and take him to have some fun out there. She went into the workshop and saw Takaya working as usual, with big dark circles under his eyes. She asked him if he was forgetting something, the promise he made that once he becomes a professional, he would form a party with her. Takaya remembers the promise, but he wanted to wait a bit so he could finish the work at hand first. But then, Daiku and Roa carried him out of the workshop and told him to just go. Even the guildmaster didn't mind it. After they managed to take Takaya out with them, Meryl mentioned how she was the first one to find Takaya, and now he was surrounded by girls before she knew it. She expressed how she had always wanted to get to know Takaya better, and right at that time, Daiku and Roa remembered they had some urgent plans and had to go do some things now. They left Takaya alone with Meryl, as if they didn't want to disturb them. Takaya didn't expect those two to leave him out so suddenly. Then Meryl told him they should get going as well. At the same time, through Takaya's talisman, his master, Sage Ever was keeping an eye on him. Sat and Faria and Mike teased how Ever definitely have a bad habit of peeping at her disciple's life. Takaya was shown around the city by Meryl, and she had him try various things, visit various places and shops, and at some moments people were kinda jealous of him getting to go on a date with a beautiful girl like Meryl. He mentioned he could feel a lot of eyes on them now, so they should go and check out the ocean next. He wanted to look at it. Meryl liked the idea and agreed to guide him to the sea. Master Ever was cheering for her disciple and rooted on for him to make Meryl his. As they walked around the port, Meryl told Takaya he was pushing himself too hard lately, and if something's bothering him, she wanted to listen to him. Takaya fell into some deep thoughts with a worried face and asked her why she became a priestess. She didn't expect that question and replied, ever since she was little, she always admired priests who helped the poor and injured. Takaya thought she was amazing, because compared to her story, Takaya here was helped by the guild and was merely given the path of a creator. Meryl told him he was overthinking things, and as they walked further, they reached the lower district. She mentioned people here have it tougher than where she lives, since everyone was not blessed in this world. She mentioned that she looked up priests for sure, but she knows she couldn't save everyone who suffers, and she was only able to save Takaya by pure chance, since she was powerless as well. Takaya told her it's not like that, and she got an amazing talent for healing, since his cut wrist was healed by her back then. But while he was sure she would keep saving more lives, Meryl seemed a bit zoned out after hearing what Takaya said just now. Takaya continued that he, on the other hand, was reluctantly dismantling boar monsters just because he was told so by class rep. Every time he looked at these scars, he was reminded of his tragic past. He doesn't know for sure even now if he was a creator now, or was he still a slave to his past. He wasn't like Meryl, who carved out her destiny on her own. Meryl mentioned he didn't seem to know anything about her, and when she was about to tell him her true skill, they were suddenly attacked out of nowhere with a lightning spell, and Takaya was trapped in a circle. Right then, he was approached by someone, greeting Takaya. It was none other than his former classmates, led by Akira, the class rep. Takaya was worried about Meryl, as she was attacked again by the lightning spell and collapsed. Takaya was also hit the next moment by the same spell, and he lost his consciousness. Someone from Akira's party caught him, and they successfully captured him, while Meryl could not do anything. After some time, Takaya woke up and found himself in a dimly lit place. He realized he had a collar around his neck, and when it got pulled, Takaya saw that he was confined inside a cave, with some treasure lying in front of him. The class rep Akira came and told him this was all the treasure the classmates gathered together, but the bloodstains on some coins made it clear to Takaya's eyes this was all plunder. Akira stated that in his life he was smart, from a rich family, and his success in life was guaranteed. But everything was snatched away from him when they got transported into this other world. That's why Akira wanted it all back, by all means necessary. He pulled Takaya up and mentioned having heard rumors of Takaya's talent. He added that they might have exiled him before, thinking he was useless. But now since Takaya has some power, it changes things, and he wanted Takaya to return to his classmates. Takaya made it clear he was a crafter, working under Sea Rat Guild, and got no attachments to any classmate at all. Moreover, everything that happened here should have been transmitted to his master, and help would be here anytime soon. Akira told him to wake up, reminding Takaya that he did not belong to this world, and his only real family was them, his classmates. Another classmate added that's why Takaya should betray the Sea Rat Guild and help them take everything for themselves. And besides, he heard a rumor that the Sea Rat Guild was hiding other rare skill users. Takaya can't believe these guys had been sniffing out details about the guild and Sage's mansion and spear all this time. Akira then declared they would make everyone in the Sea Rat Guild as their slaves, and for that to happen, he wanted Takaya to spill all the details about them. If he helps them, he would become the most popular guy in their class in an instant. Takaya turned them down, making it clear that popularity, class, and all other crap was useless, and he knew everything they were promising him was a lie. After the moment Takaya stepped outside the narrow confines of Akira and others, he found his true value, and finally, a place to belong. Akira, on the other hand, was nothing but a disgusting guy, and he won't ever listen to him. Akira questioned what the hell was Takaya himself if he thinks Akira was disgusting. He stated that the reason the Sea Rat Guild accepted Takaya was only for his skills anyway. But Takaya knows better that's not the case, and people like Akira won't understand. It pissed Akira off, and he decided to test out just how much those people care for Takaya, as he took out Takaya's blade Shirogane and sliced his right arm. Takaya suffered extreme pain and screamed in agony, while Akira chuckled, remarking that since this scene was being transmitted to Takaya's friends, they might not come after seeing that Takaya lost his dominant arm and can't use crafting skills anymore. So, Takaya didn't expect Akira to have fallen that far to go and hurt others like this. Akira declared he and other classmates would soon launch an attack on the Sea Rat Guild, so he ordered Takaya to reveal their weakness and what kind of rare skills they were hiding. He just pushed him to spit it all out, and Akira would allow to keep Takaya at least as their pet, since it was going to be impossible for him to live with one hand anyway. Takaya muttered that his whole life he thought he was worthless, but it was Meryl who changed all that and helped him without hoping for anything in return. So this time, it was his turn to repay the favor and not betray his comrades, who gave him a new life. A classmate with an axe declared the negotiations failed, so he'll execute Takaya right away. But then suddenly, the whole cave began to shake, and everyone knew something was coming for them. Akira knew it must be someone from Sea Rat who showed up to save Takaya. It was none other than Meryl, and she brought Mike along with her. The summoners from Akira's group were panicking, as their familiars suddenly stopped listening to them and sided with that large wolf. And at the same time, some of their members went flying from the direct confrontation against Meryl. She was extremely pissed off, since those guys dared to kidnap Takaya. Akira was feeling tension, but he still made up his mind to fight back. Other students also thought they won't lose to anyone, and Akira told them this tension must be a skill of that wolf, so they should keep the formation in mind and fight the enemies. Meryl told Mike to take care of all the side mutts while she goes and saves Takaya. Akira tried to cheer up the scared classmates and encourage them to fight against that wolf. And while the frontline students were a distraction, he asked the mages of his class to launch as powerful fire magic as they could, even if it burned down some of their classmates. The mage was worried for her classmates, but Akira pushed her to do it. Meanwhile, Meryl went to Takaya and saw he was bleeding a lot. She wanted to treat his wounds quickly, but then Sugetsu appeared behind her to attack her without any regards for if she was a woman or not, and he told her not to take it personally if he ends up breaking her. Meryl became serious and prepared to fight back with her fists. Sugetsu was intrigued to see she got quite some guts for a priest. She mentioned that even though she aspired to be a priest and heal the poor and wounded, she was given a different talent by the god, which could hurt people, and now she would use her skill to protect Takaya. Takaya didn't know Meryl had combat skill, and yet she was doing her best to become a priestess, which means he might have said insensitive things without knowing her fully. Now, Meryl entered a combat against Sugetsu, and while he thought she was just a woman, she ended up dodging his attacks and kicking him from the back with fast reflexes. Sugetsu was shocked he got hit by her, while he almost felt like his attack landed earlier. As she charged at him again, Sugetsu blocked her punch, but the next moment, he was again attacked by her from another angle. He doesn't understand why none of his attacks landed, and it turns out, Meryl's skill was visualization. It could make her opponents see what she wanted them to see, and use that moment to land a surprise attack at them with another angle. While she was keeping Sugetsu busy, Daiku approached Takaya sneakily from the side, and told him that the skill of Meryl was her secret. Her talent was mediocre at best, but this matched up perfectly with another secret skill she has: the power to fast-forward time. Takaya realized Meryl was actually the one with secret skills in the Sea Rat Guild. Sugetsu could not believe he was defeated by a woman, as the victor of the battle was Meryl. By this time, other classmates were being taken down one by Mike, and Akira ordered his men to take out the cannons. They shot some cannonballs at Mike, but even though it looked to them like they dealt some damage, Mike was stronger than that since she was a divine wolf. She was wreaking havoc on all the students single-handedly, and the students have realized it now. They don't stand a chance. Akira also knows this, and some students suggested they should abandon this place and run away. Akira decided to have their remaining vanguards attack the wolf and keep it busy, and told them to distract it so Akira could launch a stronger hit against that monster. One of the students felt odd and asked Akira if they were just disposable pawns to him. Akira grabbed him by the collar and made it clear they wouldn't understand his plans anyway, due to their thick heads. This action of Akira made the other students grow suspicious of him, and it was clear they don't trust him anymore. They dropped their weapons and surrendered without a second thought, leaving Akira all by himself. Akira was taken by the feeling of abandonment and wondered why this was happening to him. Who was supposed to be the chosen one? Someone came and told him he wasn't chosen or anything. It's just they were forced to obey him. The sage, Ever, arrived and made it clear that she and others in their guild chose Takaya of their own free will and would do anything for him. The battle was over, but Takaya was still struggling with blood loss and his consciousness was slowly fading. Meryl and Mike were crying out of worry, trying to keep him awake. Takaya mentioned this might be the only way he could have repaid their favor by not selling his comrades even though it risked his life. And with this cut-off hand of his, he might not be able to craft anything anymore. Master Ever told him to stop crying over trivial things, and he shouldn't have gone too far. Takaya claimed it wasn't anything, compared to what they did for a worthless guy like him. Daiku told him not to think like that, and Takaya was their hope, and he won't let anyone steal his future. Daiku then asked Takaya to give his hand to him, and he began using some skill to heal that sliced hand of Takaya. In a few seconds, Takaya's hand was right back to normal, as if nothing happened at all. Meryl told him that Daiku was actually the one who healed him back when they found Takaya, and he was actually a full-fledged healer. Takaya didn't know that the secret of their guild was that they have ultra-rare skill users. In short, Meryl got power to fast-forward time, while Daiku's power was to rewind it. Daiku mentioned he has always wanted to be a macho and manly knight, but unfortunately, he ended up hitting a ceiling with his training, and in exchange, he gained this healing power instead. At first, he thought it wasn't manly power for a knight, but then he ended up meeting Meryl, who was also going through similar problems, and they eventually found their place in this world. Daiku continued that for people like Akira, those without skills might be useless, and those with skills might be the same, since he doesn't have good eyes and intentions. But as for Takaya, Daiku believes he possesses incredible talent and also understands the pain of others. So, he was a great guy, one they could think of as their guild's hope, and he also got the power to change this world. They don't want him to feel like carrying everything alone, and understand they were there for him to rely on. This was the way of their guild, to support each other in things one was not good at individually, like they wanted to keep supporting Takaya. Takaya was moved by everyone's words, and after this incident, he decided to not hesitate anymore, and do his best to live his life as the one and only exclusive creator of Sea Rat Guild. Later, Akira and other classmates were captured and imprisoned, but Ever asked Takaya what they should do with them. Takaya decided to release them because after being a creator, he learned that everything could be fixed if given a chance. So, for these students, who must have been having it rough after losing their normal lives, Takaya believes they deserve a chance to start over. Mike was still mad at those guys and wanted to crush their heads, and so did the sage, for these rascals to dare hurt her precious disciple. Then Daiku mentioned that the number of students seemed to be lower than what Takaya said, and 7 of them were missing. Takaya noticed Minakami and some other students weren't there, but knowing her, who was kind to him back then, he was sure she must be doing well somewhere in this world. But unlike what he expected, those other students were all cursing Minakami for screwing them over and getting them trapped in a big mess in the midst of monsters. Minakami happily stated with these students gone, only one remains, and it seems for some reason, she was going after Takaya's life next, and snatching away those roots of his. The next day, when Takaya woke up, he was left speechless in this troublesome situation, and at the same time, Meryl came to wake him up for breakfast and saw him in bed with Sage, Ever, Mike, and Letty. She ran away shouting Takaya was already having 3 servings even before breakfast. Takaya cried out as Meryl misunderstood things, and it seems these girls won't leave him alone even if he wanted to. So, he made his way out of bed and left through the door, but then he came across someone. He thought it was Meryl, but surprisingly, it turned out to be Murmuru, who seemed all beat up. Letty asked her lady what happened, for her to show up without a call and with that swollen face. Murmuru started crying, and she hugged Takaya, while begging him to come to the demon realm with her. Takaya asked her what's going on, and she began telling him the story, and that after she returned to the demon realm and took up her duties as 4 heavenly kings, she was glad when no one was suspicious of the demon spear fixed by Takaya, and she kind of wanted to repay favor herself. But to think Letty was already with him made Murmuru a little unsettled, and she decided to just go to sleep now. But while she was napping, her mother came and asked her if it was wise to neglect her duties and sleep like that. Murmuru was scared like a cat when she saw Mother here, and out of the blue, she asked her to show that spear to her. Her mother found out in one glance that the spear was emitting a little holy magic, which shouldn't be coming out of the demon spear. Murmuru tried playing dumb, but her mother punched her the very next moment and shouted, "How dare she lie about the demon spear?" She demanded Murmuru to bring that person who fixed this spear right now, and that's why Murmuru came to Takaya, with the condition that if she failed to bring him before her mother, she was dead for real. Takaya didn't know anything about the demon realm, and his master asked if she was really considering going there. Takaya stated Murmuru was a precious first customer to him, and he thinks a connection with the succubus princess would surely bring great profit to their guild. The sage already knew where this was going, and Takaya made up his mind to visit the demon realm to help out Murmuru. Murmuru was really thankful for him going that far for her sake, and next, Takaya discussed this with Guild Master Rudra. Rudra has been used to all sorts of weird things when it comes to Takaya, and he respected his wish to go to the demon realm. But he can't let him go alone, since he was, after all, a user of an extremely rare skill with level 10, which was maximum out there. And even in the demon realm, his skill was a precious existence even there. So, he was planning to assign some guards to Takaya, And since they can't send a large group, he restricted Meryl and her party from accompanying him, since they could only work with each other. And a group can't. He told Akane to take over Letty's work at reception, and was considering sending Sage, Ever, and Mike, but it seems Ever already had some plans to go at the summon for the Council of Six Sages. And for that, she had already made up her mind to take Mike along with her as her bodyguard. Takaya didn't know there were more sages like Master. So Faria explained the Six Sages refers to those who contributed a lot during the war between humans and demons, and guarded humanity in turbulent times. Sage Ever didn't actually wish to go there, but she was already given the letter here, which had a time limit magic spell on it, which automatically sends the receiver to the venue. Takaya was amazed that a stationery like that exists in this world, and he might be able to make something like that with his skill. Sage Ever was planning to take Takaya along with her as well, but since he can't go, her chance to flaunt herself off to him was ruined. Takaya didn't know his master was really that amazing, but he didn't know why she needed a bodyguard for her, and what exactly sages do now. But that aside, Faria stepped forward. As it seemed there was no other choice but for her to act as Takaya's bodyguard. Takaya didn't know how the vice president was in a fight, and she made it clear she was only going because there was no one else for this task. She made it clear she might look small, but she was still a strong one. Takaya wondered what kind of fighting style she would use. And with that, the group was decided. Letty opened up the portal to the demon realm, and after passing through it, they were teleported in the middle of the sky to the demon realm. Takaya can't help being amazed at how much this fantasy world has out there. Then Faria asked him to cover his mouth with a cloth, because the miasma in the air of the demon realm was poisonous to them. Takaya could see some of this miasma and wonder if he could repurpose it for some kind of craft later. And he was kind of starting to love his job as crafter. And Letty informed them they would arrive at Murmuru's mother castle shortly. But then she noticed the teleportation might have been slightly off, as they ended up trespassing into another demon's area. And now the guards were here. The demons questioned what the hell were succubus doing in their area, and Letty thankfully managed to hide Takaya and Faria, since it would have been bigger trouble for humans to be seen here. But then some miasma ended up making Takaya sneeze, and the demon was already at their necks, even more pissed off at what a human was doing here, as if their area was some park for a casual stroll. Faria told Murmuru to take Takaya and run, while she'll hold down these demons and catch up with them later. Letty also charged a dark bolt to fight. Cyan, seeing Letty, was sensible, but the demons laughed at a tiny human daring to fight them. Faria made it clear she wasn't weak, and in her prime time, even the ancestors of demons once called her a nightmare. They entered a fierce battle, and while it was all chaos there, Murmuru took Takaya to her home, and told him the area visible in front of him now was her territory. Some children and people saw her and were smiling right away, as she was close to everyone in her territory, and they looked up to her. But when they saw a human here, they were on alert and asked Lady Murmuru why he was here. Murmuru made it clear this human was a special guest of hers, and she wanted them to keep this a secret. When a demon wondered why it was so, another demon suggested they might be up to something between themselves. And then a demon girl began coughing, and Takaya asked Murmuru if that girl was sick. Murmuru went to take care of the little one and used her healing magic, which eased the miasma that was troubling the girl. Murmuru explained that even though demons live here, not every demon, especially children, were strong enough yet from inside to expel the miasma from their bodies. So, protecting the children was also one of her duties as the four heavenly kings. But earlier, Takaya recalled that the demon called her a failure of a succubus. He had an idea and asked Murmuru to let him borrow a potato. After that, he took that potato and sliced it into fine, thin layers, then burned it to the point it turned into powder. He was planning to make dust masks especially designed to block out miasma with this powder here. He might be able to make enough powder, but he was worried someone would need to have some processing skills here in this area who could make masks later on, in his absence. Just then, two demons, Remy and Yami, came and mentioned they were sent here by Murmuru's mother, Lady Azasha, to bring Takaya and Murmuru back to the castle. Takaya wasn't denying, but he was doing something right now. Then Remy and Yami thought they might be able to help out, as they also have some crafting skills. Takaya was glad to see they were skilled enough to process the powder into masks, and after the masks were made, the little girl from earlier tried it on, and she was able to breathe properly now. Takaya was happy that children could live without fearing miasma from now on, and for that, the little girl came to thank him by kissing on his cheek. Murmuru was surprised. Even a kid got ahead of her, and she wanted to make some progress as well but can't as of now. After that, they were escorted to the castle, and Takaya felt like the air here was kind of cozier and different. Murmuru asked Remy and Yami, how was Mother's mood right now? To which they replied it wasn't very good. Murmuru had to go ahead, with a sad look on her face, while Takaya tried to cheer her up from behind. He was sure the way Murmuru cares for her people would make her mother think good of her as well, and she might not get that mad at her. But the very next moment, Murmuru was sent flying back with an attack from a spear thrown at her, and hit the wall. Takaya was shocked by this sight, and next he saw Murmuru's mother, Lady Azasha, coming out with rage for her daughter coming late. While Takaya was shocked, he was welcomed by Lady Azasha, introducing herself as former general of the succubus race, and also mother of that foolish girl in the wall right now. Takaya then checked up on Murmuru, and thankfully she managed to catch a spear by her teeth. She was thankfully alive. Then, Lady Azasha stated Takaya must be wondering why a demon as beautiful and strong as her already handed her seat as heavenly king down to her daughter. It was because Murmuru possessed talent that far exceeded her own, and to draw out the maximum power of the demon spear, she granted her daughter the seat of general so she could save their race one day. But despite all that, Murmuru ruined their precious spear and even went groveling to a human. She was pissed at how dare to deceive her own mother, as she kicked her stomach and sent Murmuru hitting the wall again. Takaya felt like stopping this, and told Azasha she was going too far for her own daughter. Azasha asked what he said, and grabbed him by the neck as she shouted that a human wouldn't understand how much that spear meant to her race. And the weight of sin committed by a child defying their mother wasn't small either. Right then, Murmuru called out Mother and told her to get her hands off Takaya. She mentioned having tried her best to do things properly, but she won't let even Mother lay a finger on Takaya, even if she has to fight her. Azasha was disappointed in her daughter and decided to just perish Murmuru right here and now to end everything at once. As both mother and daughter were going to fight each other, Takaya stopped them and declared he would create a new magic spear, which was why he came here in the first place. Azasha didn't really believe it. To think a mere human could even create something like a demon spear that was passed down in her family from generations. She smashed her hand into the wall behind Takaya, telling him not to joke about something like that. But then, Letty told Azasha it wasn't impossible, and remarked that the guy over there possesses max-level crafting skills. Takaya was glad to see Letty was safe, and her words piqued Azasha's interest. She turned to Takaya and mentioned it might be hard to believe, but since it was Letty saying that, she would believe it, since she raised Letty to be a maid incapable of lying. Now, she told him if he could create a new magic spear, she would overlook all of Murmuru's blunder. But if he failed, she would settle the score and punish both Murmuru and Takaya. Takaya agreed to that condition and took responsibility for it. After that, they took their leave, and Takaya figured it was kinda nerve-wracking. Faria was glad to see he had grown quite bold, making bluffs like that just to protect Murmuru. Faria knows fully well that currently Takaya only had potential for max level, but he was at level 5 right now. Letty told him to value his life more, because she had to lie for his sake there. He was sorry to make her lie, but she has learned lying at Sea Rat, also how useful it could be. Faria argued their guild didn't lie that much and paid their taxes honestly. Now, Murmuru asked Takaya what he would do now, and his plan was the same, to create a new demon spear and fix everything. So, he doesn't want her to worry about it and smile more. She smiled upon hearing that and decided to head straight to her demon castle. There, she told him he could use the place as his base for anything. At her demon castle, since she was one of 4 heavenly kings, it was properly hidden under a magic spell. Murmuru activated Dispel magic, and the demon castle showed itself, with hundreds of undeads welcoming their Lady Murmuru back with a large banner at the entrance, saying, "Dear Lady Murmuru." Takaya noticed she was something like an idol of the demon realm, and she was surely pleased about the grand welcome. Although, she asked who made that banner. Michael claimed it was him, since she was coming back with an important person, who would be her future husband. Murmuru lost her cool and kicked Michael so hard, his skeleton head fell off his body. Her face was red, or as she said to Takaya, it was nothing. But the other skeleton mentioned wasn't excited about Takaya, enough to keep chanting his name again and again earlier. She crushed that skeleton's head as well, and blushed even harder, while asking Takaya to follow her, as she'll show his room now. Letty teased Murmuru as well, asking if she should guide their future master to his room. Murmuru couldn't take all this embarrassment at once, and just ran inside. Later, they sat down to discuss how to craft magic spear. Faria mentioned he would also have to use some art of alchemy, and his current level might be a hindrance, since it determines the quality of the final product. Takaya asked what were the components used in making the demon spear, to which Murmuru recalled it was dark matter, which was a metal from crystallized miasma of the demon realm. Faria added, Takaya would first learn how to refine dark matter, so they should give it a try first thing tomorrow. Takaya agreed to her, while Letty was asking Lady Murmuru how they should arrange their rooms. Murmuru told her to take the hint, but she started taking him to her own room instead, just to tease Murmuru. They began having a little dispute about that, and Faria was a bit terrified by the stamina of Succubus. Faria just took him to a room and decided they both would stay together, leaving Murmuru a bit unsatisfied. Later that night, Takaya came to Murmuru's room to wake her up and ask something urgent. But Letty woke up instead and asked him what happened. She offered her own body instead if he came here for that, but he replied he was just looking for a restroom. Letty decided to accompany him in that case. But he just wanted to know the way and would go there himself. After doing the deed, he was relieved, but on the way back, he got lost. He doesn't know how he could lose his way back despite being a grown-up. Right then, he was sneakily approached by a skeleton, which scared the hell out of him. When he realized it was just Velg, the brother of Michael, and he was on patrol right now. Takaya asked Velg for the way back and learned this castle was like a shapeless labyrinth, which was why even he himself was lost right now. It didn't help at all, and Takaya was completely lost. He went ahead to find the way himself and thought how the old him might have been terrified of places like these, but the new him was filled with curiosity of the unknown. But as he walked further, he tripped and fell over, which made him feel pathetic. He was glad no one was watching. Then someone spoke up. It would be bad if they were also seen by the girl they like in a situation like that. Takaya reflexively agreed with the other guy, but then he wondered who said it, since nobody was there. A slime appeared and said it was him, and he was just a lowly amorphous creature. Takaya didn't know there would be a slime, and when he asked who he was, the slime claimed he's just a slime passing by. But more importantly, he asked Takaya who he was. Takaya mentioned he was invited by Lady Murmuru, and Slime thought of her as a cheeky little brat. He asked Takaya if he got some time after this. If so, he would show him the way. He claimed this castle was his backyard, and Takaya was wondering just who this slime was to call Murmuru a brat. Then he ended up arriving in a room, or which seemed different than any other place he had seen, a big library with hundreds of books. Slime mentioned it was his first time having a guest from the human world, and he wanted Takaya to give him feedback on a book he made. Takaya looked at it and realized it was a manga, and the slime was curious if it would sell in the human world. The protagonist of the story was a lonely demon king, and eventually he rose to the top and ruled the world, feared by everyone. But by time, his minions leave one by one, since the demon lord was arrogant despite being extremely talented, and after a final battle with the hero, he perished in solitude. As he repented for his deeds in his final moments, he suddenly got reincarnated as a human baby in another world. Slime asked if the story was interesting so far, but Takaya instead was kinda creeped out by the amount of lewd scenes in the whole manga. He questioned if it was even necessary for the hero to go to bed with every beautiful girl he saves. Slime replied that's obvious, since eroticism was the source of all creation. Although Takaya doesn't think it's necessary to have 20 pages just to take off the bottoms of the girl, they joked about things and got along well with each other, and before they realized it, the dawn was already here. The slime had a blast with Takaya, and now he would send him back as promised. Takaya had a good time as well. Then suddenly, the whole place began to shake, and it felt like an earthquake. Slime told Takuya to hurry up and get back to that kid. She needs him right now. Takaya asked Slime who he was. The slime told him he would tell if Takaya survived. Until then, he saw off Takaya Nagami. Takaya was curious now how the slime knew his last name, and the next moment he was teleported out of the place back to his room. He saw Murmuru and Letty there, and they asked him where the heck did he go. Takaya mentioned he was taken by someone to the top floor, and Letty found it hard to believe. Faria told them they don't have time to talk, as they were currently under attack by some demons. Murmuru looked around the damaged places, and thankfully there were no casualties so far. Letty saw something coming and warned others to get down this instant, as a wave of attack came right at the floor they were on. It was an extremely devastating strike, and the one behind it wasn't just any demon but another one of the 4 heavenly demons. Reigo, who's also known by the nickname Demon-Slaying General. Letty was protecting Takaya, while Reigo closed in with a grin on his face, showing he got ulterior motives for coming here. Murmuru asked Reigo what was the meaning of all this destruction, to which Reigo replied she was the one who struck first, so he should be the one to blame her. Letty doesn't understand why he was saying that. Then Reigo called forth one of his injured men, who was the same demon they encountered when Takaya and others came to the demon realm. Murmuru asked Letty, didn't she take care of everything back then? Letty confirmed she and Faria surely took them down and erased their memories with potion made by Takaya. But it seems there were more demons in the shadows who saw that and reported back. Letty was feeling guilty for failing such an important task. Murmuru told her not to worry, since she was planning to settle things with Reigo anyway. Now, she asked Reigo what was his demands clearly, to which Reigo replied he wanted Murmuru to become his bride, as atonement for harming his kin without a reason. Takaya knows that's a lie, since he has suffered from the same reasoning in the past. Moreover, now Takaya was suspicious, because it was impossible for a talented person like Letty to fail in teleportation and make mistakes, which means their entire visit was leaked from the start. Murmuru was in a pinch after hearing of the marriage as a compensation offer, and when she looked back at Takaya and Letty's faces, she was wondering, what's the best choice here? Letty spoke up first, saying this demand was completely unreasonable. Murmuru tried to quiet her, but Letty shouted that the whole thing was ridiculous. And Reigo was clearly plotting all of this. Reigo claimed that's a baseless accusation, and that humans behind them must be filling their ears and tainting their hearts. While he was growing angry, Murmuru was considering sacrificing herself for everyone's sake, but Letty comforted her, saying it's not right and she would protect her heart with her life. And for that, she made it clear to Rego, as an answer to his demand, he better not come back until the day before yesterday. In short, never. Rego was raged upon being insulted like that, and he ordered his men to attack. Feria jumped in and used her own magic spell faster to strike Rego's neck before he could make a move. It seemed to have caused some damage, and Letty followed up with a charged magic attack for daring to make unreasonable demands of her lady. Rego was repeatedly attacked by both of them, and Letty asked Lady Murmuru to join as well. Murmuru charged in with the spear and threw it at Rego with all her power, demanding to never show his face to her again. Rego was struck by the spear, but when she thought they did it, Rego just smirked, despite the spear passing through his body. He simply grabbed it and pulled it out of himself. His wounds healed within a few moments, and Rego questioned if that's all they got. Murmuru can't believe it, as her attack was definitely a critical hit, and Feria's arrow also should have pierced Rego's viral organs. But nonetheless, Rego summoned his own weapon and caused a burst of powerful magic. It pushed back even Letty and Feria. Feria mentioned there must be a secret to that magic sword of Rego, and Letty mentioned every weapon held by 4 heavenly demons has a special power to it. But for now, it was hard to find it given the situation. Rego asked Murmuru to stand up now. He would teach her a lesson for insulting him with this magic sword of his, named Dalebringer. Murmuru told Letty to take Feria and Takaya back to her mother. She wishes she could have spent more time with Takaya and made that new magic spear. Takaya didn't want to leave her alone, because Murmuru's life would be in danger if they left her alone. Letty assured him they need not worry about that, since Rego's goal was Murmuru's body, so she won't be killed. But even so, Takaya didn't want to abandon her here all alone. Murmuru told him she has a gift for him, and asked him to use it as material for a new magic spear. Also, if she were to marry Rego, her mother would be reinstated to the 4 heavenly kings, so she wanted Takaya to make a fine spear for her mother instead. As Letty began to take Takaya away, he tried to resist, and she forcefully took him away somehow along with Feria. When Takaya had to witness the sight of Murmuru's getting further, he wondered what was even the point of his talent and potential, when he couldn't even save a friend at a time like this. He didn't want to just leave things like this, and declared that he would definitely craft a magic spear for Murmuru and come back to deliver it to her. He promised to make her a magic spear, worthy of her kind heart. Murmuru smiled upon hearing that, and Takaya was taken away by Letty. He cried the whole way back, and after they returned and told everything to Lady Azasha, she shouted at Letty and called her a fool as she slapped her. Azasha recalls telling her time and time again not to leave herself so vulnerable, because she knew Rego was waiting for an opportunity like this. Azasha asked Takaya if he must have seen the children in the village, who were suffering from miasma. She explained that other demons had been exploiting that weakness of theirs and trampled them time and time again. But after a long struggle, they finally managed to gain independence after Lady Azasha managed to climb the ranks all the way to 4 heavenly kings, and she wanted to create a kingdom where all succubi could live without hardship. And for the same purpose, she trained her daughter, Murmuru, to her peak and finally made it this far after so many struggles. And yet this happened. Feria mentioned there should still be time before Murmuru weds Rego, and in the meantime, Takaya claimed he would forge a new spear and deliver it to Lady Murmuru, so she could defeat Rego. Lady Azasha trusts he might have skills for it, and his idea to repurpose the broken spear was also good and all. But she asked him if he even knew what dark matter actually was. It was a legendary material that was invisible and had no mass, and they, themselves, have yet to understand the structure of this spear, crafted thousands of years ago. So, if it wasn't possible for the demons themselves, just how was Takaya intending to melt and reshape it? Takaya had no answer. Then, Michael came and asked to hear more of that story. Maybe he could help them somehow. Takaya saw all that remained of Michael was just a head. Michael claimed his true form actually was this crown, and it was an enchanted artifact to guard Lady Murmuru. Then Feria asked Michael what does he mean by he might be of help? Does he have any connections which are even alive? Michael replied he might not have any connections, but he knows Tegakari. Takaya decided to believe in him for now and follow him. As they were about to go, Lady Azasha called out Takaya and told him if Murmuru conceives Rego's child, the succubus race should be finished, since the weak one would be discarded, and those who remain would become mere tools for breeding just like old days. So, she asked him if he had the resolve to shoulder that burden. Takaya replied that a mere high school brat like him could not carry the fate of an entire race. But since he made a promise to his friend Murmuru, he would definitely save her. Later, while following Michael's instructions, they arrived back at Murmuru's castle, which was kinda destroyed at various places. Remy and Yami swore not to forgive Rego. Then Takaya asked Michael if he found any clues. Michael went and looked for something, which was something like an object that was also an enchanted artifact, one that harbored the soul of Velg. Now, they needed a medium to use the artifact, but there was nothing but rubbles around here. Then Feria gave a soft toy she had and told them to use it. Takaya commented that she got quite the adorable hobby, but she didn't want to hear anymore. They placed the artifact on the soft toy's head and the next moment Velg's soul entered the body of the soft toy, asking where he was. Velg recognized Takaya and Faria, but Faria didn't recognize her soft toy anymore, which now had an old man's soul. Michael then asked Velg if he remembered the story of the hidden room that he stumbled upon after getting lost. Velg mentioned that the hidden room was the oldest domain in this castle, existing even before the time Murmuru was born, and apparently, it also had records from the time that Magic Spear was created. To think his clumsiness would be helpful to others one day, he was proud of himself and guided everyone to the hidden room in the castle. Apparently, it was actually more like a door that connected to another dimension. As they went further, Takaya recalled he was around the place where that slime took him earlier. To think he would return to him was unexpected. Then he saw a strange maid, one they haven't seen before. They asked her, shy was she, and she introduced herself as Mary, assigned here to guard the room by her master. Letty asked Mary to let them pass, because they have an emergency right now to save Murmuru. But Mary don't recall anyone named Murmuru, which means her master wasn't the master of castle but someone else. Letty was getting frustrated and thought of resorting to force. But Takaya calmed her down. She told Takaya they don't have much time, and when Mary heard Takaya's name, she asked him if he was Takaya. He confirmed, and Mary opened the door, stating she was instructed by her master to provide maximum cooperation if a person named Takaya comes. Takaya connected the dots and realized her master must be that slime he met back then. And after entering the study, he learned it was actually the Demon Realm Vault, and he didn't expect there was such a vast place inside, other than bookshelves. And Mary informed them this was all her master's pride and joy, an archive which encompasses the entire history of the Demon Realm, and Takaya was free to use it as he wished. Letty looked around a bit, while Takaya asked Mary if there were records from the time when this demon spear was created. She recalled they were indeed kept here, and even the hammers and tomes from that time, which were used to make it, are also stored here. Takaya was thrilled, as this was exactly what he needed. If he got the hammer that could forge dark matter, he could create Murmuru's spear. While looking around the place and collecting records, Takaya asked Mary why her master was doing so much for him. She didn't know anything since she was just a ghost, and her master said it's not fair to favor only one side. Takaya was more curious now about how Slime knows him, and he also knows the secrets of this world. But right now, his priority was to save Murmuru, since he could meet the slime later after finishing all this. He found the records of the demon spear, and the whole manufacturing process was recorded very detailed in it. Takaya studied the process, and it had a mention of something like a dragon zombie's breath. Letty doesn't think she could let Takaya be exposed to something like that. But Takaya didn't want to back down at this point, and no matter what it may be, he wanted to gather whatever they needed and make that spear regardless of the danger. Remy and Yami stated that a dragon zombie was one of the most devastating natural disasters in their realm. And it won't be a lie to say it was a weapon of mass destruction that has lost its reason and runs wildly. It was a ghoul wandering from one ruined demon castle to another, scavenging for leftover. Therefore, it was extremely dangerous to stay around demon castles, and they also made cities away from castles. Takaya realized that since it came to destroy demon castles, they were standing in one right now. Suddenly, the whole place began to shake violently, and they heard a loud thunderous roar from outside. Takaya asked if it was exactly what he thought, but nobody needed to answer such an obvious question, and Faria told Takaya it's time to work and spread their guild's name. They ran outside the demon castle and saw the large figure of the dragon zombie flying in the sky with blue flames coming out of its body. Alfaria then took out some black letters and told Takaya she was given that by Sage Ever. She had a message for Takaya to come back by using it if he were to sense any danger and escape alive, because his life was more valuable than anything else for everyone in the guild, and they prioritize his life over work. Takaya understood that and took a look at the dragon zombie. After he made up his mind, Letty carried him and reminded him that a dragon zombie sprays toxic slime, which is deadly poisonous, so he must not breathe whenever they get too close to the dragon. Takaya asked Letty, Remy, and Yami to cover him, while he and Faria were to gather the zombie dragon's fire. Velg arrived and mentioned he got a jar from Mary, which could collect the dragon zombie's flames. Faria thanked Velg, and now they were on their deadliest mission ever, to collect the flames of zombie dragons. Letty stated if only the dragon attacked her with its breath she could collect the fire, and they can't risk dragging this for long. Takaya also wished it would just breathe out, and while he wasn't noticing, a small insect came near his neck and stung him. Before he noticed, Faria saw a mosquito flew to Takaya, and he suddenly felt his body going numb, leaving him paralyzed and unable to move. Then the mosquitoes grew in numbers, and they seemed to be coming out from the surface of the zombie dragon's body. Letty explained that was the true threat of zombie dragons. And because that damn monster was covered by so many insects, they could not get close to its body anymore. Letty thought they had failed the quest now. Takaya thought about it and asked what if the threat of mosquitoes was gone. But Remy and Yami mentioned that there's no means to counter those mosquitoes in the demon realm. It was a principle that was decided thousands of years ago. She told him not to get ahead of himself just because he made a mask. But Faria knew Takaya must have thought of something and asked what he was planning to craft this time. Takaya claimed he got just the right thing, which he brought from the human world, a poisonous mushroom which nearly killed Mike. He claimed to be carrying it ever since to research and see if more antidotes could be made, and if it's a plant from the human world, they should be able to take care of those mosquitoes. And when he made that insecticide, they would just spray it over mosquitoes with Faria's wind magic. Right then, the dragon zombie charged at them, which didn't leave them with enough time. Michael and Velg ran ahead to distract the dragon, which was extremely risky, and Takaya told them to watch out. But they assured him they would be fine, since their real forms were the artifacts, their crowns. Michael went ahead to poke the dragon and got blasted with its dragon breath. His body was destroyed, but the crown was fine. Velg collected the crown of Michael and ran away from the dragon. They managed to buy some time, and Takaya quickly got to work over making the insecticide. He didn't take long and was done with it in a few seconds. He then asked everyone to apply the insecticide over their bodies. And Remy and Yami were now beginning to understand why Murmuru and Letty were serving a human body. Their mission to collect dragon's flames began. Yes, and they spread out around the dragon. The insects came at them, but they still kept sprinting forward, and the insecticide seemed to be working excellently. They were sure now Takaya was the real deal, and this might just work. Remy and Yami attacked the dragon together with Dark Ray to restrict its movements. Letty threw the bottle with more insecticide over the dragon, and Faria shot an arrow with her wind magic, which crushed the bottle and spread the insecticide over the zombie dragon. The insects began getting away from the dragon's body, and there was their chance to get close to that thing. Faria launched her strongest move, Fairy's great crossbow at the dragon, and the large arrow struck right in the torso of the zombie dragon. The dragon suffered some real damage, which made it hard for him to move temporarily. And while the dragon needed to rest on one place, Faria told Takaya this was the moment for them to get close to that thing. Letty carried Takaya close to the dragon, while swearing to protect him with her life. The dragon was charging a breath at them when it saw them coming, but Letty was fast and quickly got close to the dragon. They needed to get the part of organ which fuels the zombie dragon's breath, which could only be found in its mouth. Letty flew inside the dragon's mouth with Takaya, and they saw the dragon's core. Takaya struck it with his blade Shirogane, and the dragon began quilling with pain. Letty and Takaya knew they don't have long, so Takaya quickly cut a portion of dragon's core, and his blade ended up melting along with some piece of the organ. Takaya carefully placed the blade above the jar, and managed to obtain what they came here for. With this, their mission was a success, and Letty quickly flew him out of the zombie dragon's mouth before it closed its jaw. They managed to collect the ember of the zombie dragon, and Letty told him he did really well out there. Now, they just needed to handle the last part, to save Murmuru. Back in the secret study room, Faria treated his burned hand and patched it up a little with healing magic, although it didn't heal completely, and swinging the hammer in this state would be difficult for him. Takaya looked at the hammer and toughened up somehow to try and pick the hammer up, but it was too heavy to lift for his injured hand. Letty helped him, and claimed she would not let him carry the burden alone. Faria also assisted and told him to just drive the hammer, while they would handle the weight. Remy and Yami commented that if one could not wield the hammer in the demon realm, they were no blacksmith. Faria don't care how it looks, they just can't give and need to try everything. Remy and Yami decided to cooperate with Takaya and help him save their lady Murmuru. They carried the hammer to the stove that was used in ancient times, and Takaya thought it was a large version of the instant stove. He had smithing skills taught by Akane in mind, and now he just has to do what he knows. He used the ember of a zombie dragon to fire up the stove, and the blue flames erupted without showing any signs of needing any fuel. They melted the demon spear in fire, and now just needed to swing the hammer as Takaya plans. He was assisted by others to handle the weight of the hammer, and now he just had to make sure he drove the direction right as the structure of the spear he wanted to create. He could feel the dark matter, and thought if NASA were to find it, they would have been overjoyed for sure. The process was taking a bit long, and even Faria and Letty were reaching their limit at this point. Together, they somehow pulled through the pain and managed to create the demon spear. Takaya looked at it and confirmed the spear was completed, and they thought they would now be able to take revenge with it. However, Takaya then put the spear back into the stove, and it melted again. Letty asked him why he did that, despite everything going smoothly. Takaya stated, "It's good that everything was going smoothly, which means the blueprints were correct. But now, he wanted to repeat the process until his skill reached enough level so he could create the best spear he could make for Murmuru. He asked everyone if they would help him out with it. As he kept bearing the dark matter repeatedly, Takaya recalled his life having been picked up by Meryl and hired by a guildmaster, then trained by Master Ever, and have met Murmuru and others in the demon realm, along with learning smithing from Akane. That time when Daiku treated his arm, Meryl also repaired his heart, so with all these feelings in his mind, he wanted to create a legendary demon spear. After he was finished, Faria asked him what they should name this spear. Takaya figured since he received help from everyone to create it, he would name it as the Tribe of All Spear. Faria remarked his naming skill also seemed to have leveled up. And isn't the completion of the spear, they were all glad. Right then, a portal opened up behind them and Lady Azasha came out from it. Takaya asked her what happened, to which she replied she received a letter from Reigo. Letty read the letter and saw it was actually an invitation to his wedding with Murmuru, and he wanted her family and friends to get a final look and burn that image in their eyes. Remy and Yami seemed mad about this insulting behavior to invite them to Murmuru's wedding just like that, and Takaya could not forgive that either, but he didn't need to get all riled up for now, because the demon spear was finally completed in time. Letty has fallen for Takaya, and Faria also seems to have taken a liking to him and his character, even though his fashion sense sucks a little. And Azasha stated she won't be able to lend her support due to her position, and in exchange, she wanted Remy and Yami to take care of her daughter out there. They listened to the orders of Lady Azasha, and promised to guard the future leader of their clan. Takaya told them all it was time for them to go and rescue Murmuru. Mary showed up and claimed to have a souvenir for Takaya, and he thought it was a memo. She told him it's a thanks from her master to Takaya for reading his manga earlier, and he hopes for Takaya to win this one. Meanwhile, in the venue of the wedding, Murmuru seemed to be tied in chains, while keeping her head down in despair. Then a demon came and told her it's time for the wedding ritual, so she was to come out. On her way out, they told her not to look so gloomy since she would bear Lord Reigo's child. She was told it's a great honor for her, but she questioned back what if she didn't smile in front of Reigo. They hit mad at her. Then Murmuru heard Takaya's voice calling out for her. She looked up and saw he was coming by flying. Takaya told her he brought the demon spear as promised. She was excited to see he really came, while someone else didn't seem all that happy to see that human Takaya again. It was the demon-slaying general, Reigo. He mocked it's worthless to trust a coward human's words and warned her beforehand if she picks up the spear, he would show her a true fight, unlike their farce before. And this time, he would make her submit once more in front of everyone. He was sure this wedding would go down in history. Takaya told Murmuru not to listen to any words from a good demon, but it seems she wasn't, and was more worried about Takaya instead. She had missed him a lot, but out of nowhere, he told her to forgive what he was about to do now. It's going to be a diversionary tactic. He leaned in and kissed her suddenly, which left each and every person and demon speechless, and Reigo was boiling in rage inside. Murmuru asked him what was this for. He asked her to just listen to the plan he had, and everyone was in confusion. Reigo thought Murmuru was charmed by the human world for things like that, and now he plans on teaching her at the night of wedding that demon tribes were 10 times better. Even other demons thought both the bride and groom were disgusting here, but that didn't matter to Takaya, and he told her this plan of his was a double-edged sword. After explaining it, he went away, leaving the rest up to her, while calling her his beloved for the sake of pretense. Right then, Reigo jumped down, and he didn't think she was that close to that human. He told her to say goodbyes before he makes her pregnant semi-permanently, as if to say he intended on using her for making many demon babies. Murmuru called him a disgusting comm artist and declared she won't lose this time. Reigo told her not to think she won't lose just because her spear was back to normal, and he announced to crush her in 3 strikes. All the demons were thrilled by the bold claim of their Lord Reigo, while Murmuru chuckled as she noticed everything was going according to Takaya's plan. Reigo got a little stressed upon hearing that, while Takaya returned back to Letty and Faria, who thought he kissed Murmuru to inspire her through love, and she would definitely win now. But Takaya denied it won't happen, and unfortunately, Murmuru would lose to Reigo. It came out as a bit shocking for them to hear this from Takaya, and he turned to ask Remy and Yami if he was wrong about that. Faria asked him what the hell was going on here, to which he replied having felt like something was off ever since beginning. And the recent series of disturbances confirmed that somehow things were always going conveniently as Reigo wanted. Thus, he came to the conclusion that Remy and Yami were working for Reigo and spying on them this whole time. There were many moments of doubts because first, a magic spear snapped suddenly despite being as good as new. Then, Letty's teleportation was altered and they got ambushed at the exact location. And lastly, when the 5 of them were forging the demon spear, he knows that he certainly got the room to grow his craft skill to maximum level. But he was still inexperienced despite grinding levels these past few days. At best, he only gained like 20 or 30% experience from the grinding he did. And the fact that the demon spear was forged right before the wedding means it was a carefully devised plan by Remy and Yami. He doubted at the time why that was, and he realized that since Remy and Yami have crafting skills as well, their experience made up for speeding up the time, and they also stole some experience points by activating their skills when they were supposed to only handle the weight. He thought of a plan at that time and intentionally created the demon spear which would break exactly in 3 blows, And since Remy and Yami could sense the strength of the spear with their craft skill, they leaked it to Reigo, who now made a bold claim to defeat Mamoru in 3 blows. Letty didn't want to believe this bitter truth, since Remy and Yami were supposed to be working directly under Lady Azasha. But then Remy and Yami answered, it was easy to deceive Lady Azasha, and it seems her daughter also inherited poor judging abilities from her mother to not notice them earlier. Letty questioned them how they could betray their own clan by selling them out. Mamoru made it clear she was aware of all the conspiracies plotted by Reigo, thanks to Takaya, who used his brain to expose him. But Reigo doesn't think it makes any difference, even if a human found out about his plans. However, Mamoru's declared to defeat him right here and now. But before that, she wanted to know why Reigo wanted to disrupt the peace and reignite the flames of war, when they recently entered a truce with the human world. Reigo replied it was obvious, and asked Mamoru why she thought the demon realm could not defeat the human realm. It was because of their weak system, and he believes that everyone in the demon realm was divided by races and genders to play their optimal roles. Like strong and wise demons were supposed to fight bravely and rule nations, while female demons were supposed to protect their home. But then some stupid demons stood up to abolish the racial-based job assignments of their roles, which destroyed the perfect system. Reigo thinks that was a mistake, and he would fix the system again to reclaim the glory of their demon realm. Mamoru was creeped out by that stupid story and asked when did he become strong and wise at all. It was all thanks to his weapon that he could win fights. Otherwise, his own strength was just a decoration. She doesn't think someone like him could even rule the demon realm. But Reigo doesn't care what she thinks of her, and he just believes he was born different, to rule everyone else so that his name would be etched in history. He had his 2 men attack Takaya and others, and Mamoru had no choice but to jump in and block those attacks to save them. But in this process, even though she defeated one demon, the other demon attacked her and pushed her back. She went and hit the wall, having lost 2 of her 3 blows. Reigo reminded her she got 1 more chance left, which almost made it clear she can't win this. Meanwhile, Letty asked Remy and Yami why did they betray them. They replied they do have crafting skills as well, and their magic power was strong enough that they could be compared to the likes of Lady Azasha and Mamoru. But they don't understand why they have to do maid work at all. Why should they work for a weak clan, who would only drag the demon race down? They admit the future Lady Azasha thrives on was beautiful, but they were not seeing any real results at all and can't take it anymore. They didn't want their children to work as maids either. Letty can't believe those 2 were really going against their own Lady Azasha who raised them, just because Reigo promised them positions befitting their abilities after he rules the demon realm. They wanted to be well known for their power and also give birth to strong descendants. Letty asked them if they think cutting off the weak would grow a country, because it was total crap. She reminded them that Lady Azasha's efforts bore tremendous fruit, and that very achievement was Lady Mamoru herself, because she possesses not just the bloodline, but also the strength and kindness necessary to forge the future of demons. And she inherited all that from Lady Azasha. So Letty believed in her and would care for the master who entrusted her with her own dreams with her life. That was something she took pride in as a maid. Remy Yami told her to wake up already, because they don't think a weakling like Mamoru got any chance at doing something. Mamoru was bleeding from the damage she sustained, while Reigo was unscathed, just standing there. Mamoru went in to attack Reigo next, and their weapons clashed against each other. While Mamoru was putting all her strength in this attack, Reigo seemed to be gaining something through his weapon. Then he pushed her back and kicked in the stomach, sending her flying to hit the ground and bite the dust. The crowd was cheering for Reigo and thought he was definitely going to win. Reigo made it clear that demons and succubus were born with different muscles and strengths. So no matter what Mamoru does, she couldn't ever match a demon like him. So he told her to just leave the big things to him and know her place and sit down in a corner quietly. Mamoru didn't buy that crap and made it clear that their lives as succubus wasn't for satisfying Reigo's self-esteem, and she refused to be defeated by likes of him for as long as she lives. Reigo told her she would lose and become his wife, and her race succubi would serve demons for eternity. And since succubi can't defeat demons, the whole demon realm would belong to him. The sooner she accepts that, the easier her life would be. Others in the back were tired of listening to this stupid guy talk and pinned their hopes on Mamoru, who was standing up again and again to fight back Reigo. She knew next might be the last blow of her attack, yet she went at it with everything she got, and Reigo was there to take her attack head-on. From their weapons striking each other's, a powerful shockwave was generated, and the whole audience saw Mamoru's weapon shattering after the 3rd blow. Faria wished this was also going according to Takaya's plan, but he claimed everything depends on Mamoru now. The spectators could see things went just as Reigo said, and he shattered the opponent's weapon in 3 strikes for real. Reigo declared he was the victor of this battle, but before he could complete the sentence, he felt something was off, and his hand seemed to be overflowing with something unsettling. Takaya claimed he also saw the blueprints of Reigo's weapon, Dalebringer earlier, which have the special ability to absorb miasma attributes. So, the stronger Mamoru was, the more power Raigo would absorb, granting him immortal regeneration, which was why Raigo was certain of his victory, and Letty realized now why Dalebringer's ability wasn't known to others. Takaya also knew Raigo was extremely cautious, so Takaya also made a secret modification to the spear, under the guise of repeated leveling. He coated the spear's core with a deadly human poison, which nearly killed Mike once. He put in every last drop he had in it, and when Raigo realized it, he knew he couldn't hold his weapon anymore. He put it away from him and was now without a weapon. Murmuru told him she hadn't fallen yet, and demanded him to show his true strength to her now. The spectating demons were convinced Raigo was strong even without a weapon, but Raigo's face said otherwise. Murmuru seemed extremely pissed off, and she wanted to settle things once and for all with a hand-to-hand combat. While she was about to throw a punch, Raigo knew he needed to do something, so he sneakily reached for a small blade and threw it at her, but she caught it with her teeth and spit it inside like nothing. After that, she continued to punch him, and Raigo also threw a fit for show. After they landed their punches on each other's face, everyone was tense about what would happen now, but surprisingly, only one of them coughed out blood, and it wasn't Murmuru. Raigo took some real damage, since he wasn't holding his weapon anymore to regenerate him. Meanwhile, Remy and Yami were shocked to see him going down. Letty made it clear Murmuru was the strong one all along, and even the demons and spectators realized the truth, that Raigo was nothing without his weapon. Raigo tried to pretend he still had some fuel left and challenged her, but she had no intention of playing his game, as she secretly attached something to Raigo's body. It was one of the letters from Ever, which had a spell of teleportation casted on it. Takaya claimed that was the plan all along, and Murmuru told Raigo that now he would be judged by the law. Raigo didn't get it, until he was suddenly teleported by the magic and vanished from the arena. Meanwhile, in the royal city, the Sage Council was being held with all the 6 sages in one place, and in the middle of their talks, Raigo suddenly popped up out of nowhere and fell down in front of them. Raigo wondered where the hell was he, and how dare they do this to him. But one of the sages was wondering who this demon was. Then someone recognized it was a demon-slaying general, and asked who ordered this guy here. Ever told them it was for her, and it seems her cute disciple exposed this demon's plans to initiate war, and turned him in right here. She boasted that her disciple wasn't amazing after all, but that aside, the other sages wanted to take care of this filthy thing first, as they didn't want to breathe the same air as a filthy demon. Ever figured she was right, and she called the Princess Knight, who had excellent capabilities for demons. A sage told Ever she was always so demanding and random, but she thinks it's all great as long as it's fun. Raigo was tired of being looked down upon and was about to attack, but before he could take a single step, he was cut into pieces by the Princess Knight, and she executed him on the spot for violating the ceasefire. Raigo called the laws useless, but his nonsense was just ignored by everyone, and Ever let him know that he wasn't worth listening to anymore. The demon didn't realize he was dead the moment the Princess Knight slashed him, and now he was as good as dead for real. Meanwhile, in the demon realm, Murmuru told everyone Raigo was dead, and anyone who objects to this result can step forward now. Takaya thought it would make things difficult if demons in the crowd started a riot, but all of them just stayed quiet and decided they would just mourn until their next leader was decided. Murmuru made one thing clear to them, that not all of them were beasts like Raigo, and she hoped that maybe they could live together as equals one day. Takaya eventually witnessed the result they wanted, while some people didn't get the desired outcome, making this battle an end for their life. Later, at the castle of Lady Azasha, she praised General Murmuru for seeing through Raigo's scheme and proving her strength worthy of 4 heavenly kings. Murmuru wished she could get a simple good job for my daughter, but that ticked her off, whereas she reminded her that most of the credit goes to that human Takaya anyway. Takaya mentioned it was Murmuru who defeated Raigo. Then she reminded him as well that their deal was not over yet either, and he would have to work hard until the new magic spear was completed. Then, Murmuru told Mother that she always hated the idea of becoming general, since she thought it was a hassle. But now, after everything that has happened so far, she realized something, that the underworld has a lot of things that need to change, and she also hates the idea of not being able to marry the one she loves. So, she won't hesitate anymore to bring crucial changes and do her duty with a stronger resolve. Azasha had high hopes for her, and Murmuru figured they should now hold a party for their victory. Azasha called out names of Remy and Yami, and declared they would receive punishment for betraying a general and putting Murmuru's life in danger. They deserved to be executed by her. Murmuru felt uneasy, as the whole room went silent. Then Takaya asked Remy and Yami weren't they going to keep making masks for the children? Or were they lying when they said they cared about children? They replied it wasn't a lie, and they were truly impressed when they realized they could save lives with their creative skill. And if they had met Takaya sooner, things might have turned out differently. Murmuru assured them they would be fine. Mother would just yell at them a little and forgive them, like she always says she'll kill Murmuru, but it was all talk. They later held a grand party in the castle, and Veld came to thank Feria for this body. Although Michael needed a body as well, and he asked if this stuffed animal of hers had any siblings. She was reluctant, as she brought out a stuffed toy of Potato. But she made one thing clear, that she was a grown-up, and not all that attached to soft toys, which clearly did not seem to be the case. Then Letty asked Takaya whose kiss was better, hers or Murmuru's, reminding him the time Letty kissed him when she met him at the guild. Takaya replied it wasn't really a kiss, it was just a diversion tactic. Murmuru didn't like the answer and said, why don't they do it again to see who does it better? Both of them hugged him and said they won't let him sleep until morning today. Takaya quickly excused himself and ran away, saying he needed to use the restroom. After coming out from the restroom, he noticed he was always going to the bathroom in the underworld. Then on the way back, he saw a shadow of someone, and when he checked it out, it belonged to Lady Azasha. He realized she was mourning after having executed the two maids she loved and raised since childhood just because they violated the law. She wondered if one day Murmuru's pure, unstained hands would also be dyed in blood too. She wanted Takaya to tell her if there was any meaning to all this battle at all, just to change the ideals. Takaya replied he was a crafter, and he always imagined what was desired while creating something. And as long as one imagines it, there's nothing they can't create. So, just like that, he was sure that one day, Murmuru would surely create the future that Lady Azasha imagines. Lady Azasha kept sitting there, while Takaya returned to Murmuru and Letty. And while things finally sorted out for them, someone in the distance claimed to have helped Takaya, just because he was at an overwhelming disadvantage. He helped in everything from lending him the underground archive to guiding the dragon zombie to castle. But even so, there was only a 10% chance of his success. And yet, Takaya pulled it off. The slime transformed into his real form, revealing his name to be Mitsuya Tegakari, and he asked his other companion China what she thought about them being able to trust Takaya with the whole world or not.